Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. Forget the fight for 15, comrade. New marching orders have been handed down. And get ready instead for calls to raise the minimum wage to $50 an hour. That sounds like the hyperbole many of us used against those who want to raise the minimum wage to arbitrary figures like $15 an hour just a few short years ago. How quaint that sounds now. The question always was, what is the limiting principle for such demands? If $15 an hour would improve the lives and livelihoods of low-wage workers, then wouldn't $50 or $100 be even better than $15? I mean, we are supposed to believe, after all, that companies can afford that without breaking the bank and without passing along those increased costs to the consumer or without just shutting down entirely. So why not? When has reality ever gotten in the way of what the left wants? Well, apparently California Democrat Congresswoman Barbara Lee took that line of argument to heart. She's running against a number of Democrat colleagues from the Hill, such as Adam Schiff and Katie Porter, to fill the Senate seat held by the late Senator Dianne Feinstein. And on Monday, they took to the stage to make their case as to why they're the better lefty progressive to fill Di-Fi's shoes. It seems Schiff and Porter have found themselves in quite the bind because they've helped the Democrat Party to become one in which crazier and crazier handouts are promised, completely divorced from reality. And so now their calls for raising the minimum wage to $20 or $25 an hour just got out crazy by Barbara Lee upping the ante by double, making them look like greedy corporate fat cats by comparison, at least in the minds of their own voters. So here's the Congresswoman making her argument. Listen.
You're calling for a $50 an hour federal minimum wage. That's 7 times the current national minimum wage of $7.25 an hour. Can you explain how that would be economically sustainable for small businesses? You have 60 seconds.
First, let me say I owned and ran a small business for 11 years. I created hundreds of jobs, benefits, retirement benefits, also health care benefits. I know what worker productivity means, and that means that you have to make sure that your employees are taken care of and have a living wage. In the Bay Area, I believe it was the United Way, came out with a report that very recently, $127,000 for a family of 4 is just barely enough to get by. Another survey very recently, $104,000 for a family of 1, barely enough to get by. Low income because of the affordability crisis. And so just do the math. Just do the math. Of course, we have national minimum wages that we need to raise to a living wage. You're talking about $20, $25, fine. But I have got to be focused on what California needs and what the affordability factor is when we calculate this wage.
We did do the math, Congresswoman, and it ain't adding up. The $20 an hour minimum wage for fast food workers here in California is going into effect this April and is already resulting in thousands of job losses. And you know what else it will do? Juice inflation. PJ Media is now reporting, quote, consumer prices rose an expected 3.1% in January, which is down from 3.4% in December, but significantly higher than the 2.9% that was predicted. Taking out the volatile food and energy prices, inflation actually rose 3.9% compared to last year. The Federal Reserve Board has been very timid about cutting rates. This is the reason why. In past battles against high prices, the Fed has learned from hard experience that cutting interest rates too much, too soon can start the inflationary spiral all over again, end quote. Joining us now to discuss all this and more is Alfredo Ortiz, the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, thanks for being here tonight.
Kara, thank you so much. I love the humor in this story.
I appreciate it. So, you know, we can laugh about it, but also at the same time, I know our wallets, our pocketbooks aren't laughing along with us. So when it comes to this latest CPI report, the Consumer Price Index, what exactly does it say?
Well, look, it says exactly what we've been saying for months and months right now, that inflation is still not under control. If you look at the core inflation rate, it's almost double of what the Fed is targeting. And so even though the president is out there crowing about, look how the rate of inflation is decreasing, the rate might be decreasing, but the prices are still going up, Karen. This is the thing that folks have to understand, right? This is nothing to celebrate about.